Men2Men Summit. I appreciate you all taking your time on short notice to come out and have this conversation that I think is so essential to our brotherhood. Before we get started, I wanted to invite Nova's Dean, School of Law, Dean Pettis. He's been here, I'm guessing, about 5 years. He's really done amazing things at this school in many areas, but one in particular has been building up acceptance and diversity in our community and in this law school. Dean, if you would come forward. We also have with him Associate Dean Olympia Duhart, who is with us as well. So thank you. If you can come up and say something.
Good evening, all. I'm going to be brief. I promise you have very important conversations to engage in. My name is Beto Juarez. I have the honor of serving as the Dean of the Shepherd Broad College of Law here at Nova Southeastern University. And I have just a couple of key responsibilities that I want to take care of this evening. One is to formally welcome each and every one of you. You do not know how it gladdens my heart to see each of you here and to choose the law school as the venue for this important event and this important series of conversations. I want to give a shout out as well to those who are joining us virtually. We're sorry you can't be here at the law school. We hope you'll come when you have the opportunity. My second very important responsibility is to thank all of the people here at Nova Southeastern University who have made tonight's event possible. And in particular, I want to thank two of my staff, Sharia Randall, who is someone who is very active in our community and who has bent over backwards to make sure that we could make this happen. And Karen Rose, who's the person who is ensuring that there are comfortable seats for you all to sit in, good food and drink for you, and to make sure that we are in fact extending a very warm welcome to each of you. For me, it's especially important that we are welcoming you to the law school at this particular point in time. Black men have been in the news a lot recently, you may have seen, and for various and sundry reasons. I think we have an election coming up sometime soon. And so it's really important to have these spaces in which these important conversations can take place. Certainly, we have to have those conversations as a nation and in our local and regional communities. But it's especially important, I think, for all of the communities within the broader community to have these spaces. And so it's really wonderful to welcome each and every one of you. I love the fact that this is described as a conversation about social engagement and social action. That's what we're all about. In my view, that's what the law is all about. And so whether you are a lawyer or not, we are thrilled to have you here, and we hope you will feel welcome, and we hope you will stay and enjoy a great conversation, and that you will come back soon. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. And it's absolutely true. If I did not have the help of Sharia and Karen, this wouldn't have been happening. They have been unbelievably helpful to us. Let's open up with a prayer, if you don't mind. Bow your heads. Lord, you spoke, we listened, and we gather with full belief that this evening your purpose will be fulfilled. God, we ask that you strengthen us to humble ourselves to make room for your Holy Spirit this evening. God, you know each and every one of us. You know our strengths and you know our weaknesses. Allow our hearts and our minds to be open for a genuine conversation that will enlarge our perspectives in life. While you made us with unique characteristics, while in this band of life that we play different instruments, let us be willing to meld our voices and actions together for the greater good of our brotherhood. In the end, after if all has been said and done, we humble ourselves and pray that will be done. Thank you. Amen. Amen. Let me introduce to you our panel members. We have different generations, and one of the things that's critical here is to create a conversation throughout the generations of our brotherhood. The focus of some of our issues have been a feeling that there's a gap between the younger brothers and the older brothers. And I'm in the older brother category now with Mike Nixon and Seth Shirley and all the rest of us. So we're the older brothers, and it's important that we have a space, a safe space, that we can have some conversations among men, and that whatever's on their hearts, they need to be able to say. And then we're going to share some wisdom through. So I'm going to be, as the moderator, I'm going to be asking questions, prompting some conversations. We will receive comments from the audience, as well as my brother Noel Hyatt is going to be providing me with some questions online for the people that are attending online. So with that, we have, to my immediate right, we have Stephen Hunter Johnson. Stephen is a lawyer, shareholder with Lydecker LLP in Miami. He's a graduate of the historically Black Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland. He attended the University of Miami School of Law, where he received his law degree with honors. Philosophically, Stephen believes one must be politically, socially, and economically invested and active in the community. As a result, he has served as the chair of the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board and president of the 100 Black Men of South Florida, as recent as the last immediate past president for that organization. Presently, he serves as the secretary of Coppin State University Development Foundation and vice president of Miami-Dade Public Schools Audit and Budget Advisory Board. We're happy to have Steve. Yeah, Coppin. The only one. Next, we have the second from to my right. We have Jakari Lucas. Jakari is the youngest amongst us. Jakari, I was surprised to learn, is 21 years old. When you hear all that he's accomplished, it's amazing that he's done it so early in life. Jakari grew up in Pompano Beach, Florida. He attended Florida A&M University. He graduated from high school with a 5.0 GPA and received his associate's degree before graduating from high school. He continues to pursue his music career. He simultaneously worked on his bachelor's degree, proving that no task is too big. He's been involved and had great successes. He told me before, he just submitted his new album that'll be out in December. I said, how many songs? And he said, I think you said 14. 14 songs. And if you look him up, he has a lot more music online. His music has had accolades to date, and this I think is dated, but such as 3 sync licenses on ESPN, 2 of which went on to become the theme songs to the annual NBA draft. As his stage name is Lil Kari. As Lil Kari, the songs become a backup for one of the leading sports events of the year. His online presence ascended to more than 1 million followers. I spoke to Jakari a couple of weeks ago, and he was on his way to Orlando to meet with some influencers with TikTok. And he spent the whole couple of days up there with his promotions of his clothing line. So you got a younger brother who's going to give us the perspective, and he has over 400 million streams of his music. So we're happy to have Jakari. 40, what did I say 400?
I don't think I heard that too. I'm like, I wasn't going to take that.
After this, he'll go up to 400 million. Next to Steve, we have brother Kevin Love, who is a project manager at Moss and Associates, one of the largest construction companies we have here in South Florida. He oversees high-profile construction projects, including $250 million development in Boca Raton. He's a native. Kevin holds a civil engineering degree from Florida International University. His commitment to community service shines through his involvement with Handy, which is a great community organization where he mentors and inspires youth. He's passionate about leadership and strives to make a positive impact on professionally and societally. We also have at the end, Brother Rohan Sutherland. Brother Sutherland is a visionary leader and a community organizer dedicated to celebrating culture, fostering unity, and creating unforgettable experiences. As a founder of one of the organizers of Black Lux Picnic and Music Festival in Palm Beach, Rohan has played a pivotal role in transforming Black Lux into a more than just an event. It's a celebration of excellence and a tribute to Black history with a significant economic impact. He's the managing partner of Genesis Media Group, where he specializes in creating and organizing community-oriented events. He is all about giving back to the community, and he's one of the brothers who are in the trenches, on the ground, connecting with brothers in the Palm Beach area, and I'm sure he will talk about that more often. He's a graduate of Montclair State University in New Jersey with a Bachelor of Science in Political Science with a minor in pre-law. So somewhere in him is a lawyer that he's somewhere in there. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Pastor Reverend Ray Whiteley. Pastor Whiteley is the lead organizer for Faith in Florida, focusing on Black male listening sessions to uplift the community voices. A first-generation American from Jamaica, Pastor Whiteley is passionate about bringing sustainable change to the lives of the least among us and helping individuals realize their inner potential. He serves on many and various boards: Children's Oasis International, Healing Hands Ministries, Boynton Beach Coalition of Clergy, Unify Palm Beach County Behavioral Health Coalition, Housing Committee, as well as the Black Caucus. He clearly desires to be a kingdom influencer, sharing his faith and inspiring those around him. He is married and has 8 children and 15 grandchildren. He's taking care of himself well. So those welcome panel members. So let's start our conversation. The purpose of this event, as you've probably seen in some of the promotion, is listening. I quote, listening is an essential part of good communication. It can help you understand people's ideas, problems, and desires. When people feel heard, they feel they are known, loved, and understood. I want us to keep that in mind as we have this conversation, and that we open our ears before we come to what we're going to talk about. The purpose of this event is to engage in the conversation with Black men, primarily ages 18 through 35, in order to listen to their concerns and issues, and to hopefully offer real facts and experienced perspective and wisdom, which will enable them to make reasoned decisions about life, politics, and their futures. Let's start off our conversation looking at the intergenerational connection at the state of the brotherhood of Black men in America. Do we as Black men have, from various generations, understand each other? Is there open-mindedness between the generations? What's the level of communication that we have? Jakari, I'm going to ask you to take that. Do we understand each other? Is there open-mindedness between the generations? And what's the level of communication?
Well, that's a really action-packed question. It's like 3 parts, so I'm gonna do this bit by bit. All right. So the first part of it was, Brother Eugene, say one more time, please.
Yeah. Do we understand each other?
I think there's an underlying understanding when it comes to men. Like when you start the coming of age, there's a certain understanding, but I think as generations begin to progress, that understanding begins to dwindle. Especially I think a lot of the older generation, when it comes to our generation, they begin to scold or look at you as lesser than in a lot of situations that they might have been able to persevere in. And a lot of times it's like an underlying sense of judgment, it feels like, instead of a sense of wisdom, when it comes to the older generation of men talking down to their sons or the ones after them. And I think that what kind of gets misconstrued is that we're going through the same struggles, but we're going through it differently. For example, a lot of us had to experience COVID in our generation. The older generation didn't experience nothing like that. So I don't think they understand a lot of times what that does to a child or a young man mentally when they're going through these different situations and trying to be able to navigate them on their own. So I think that's the first thing when it comes to understanding. I think you have to put yourself in their shoes. But when you put yourself in the younger generation's shoes, don't look at it like I was 18 once, like I went through this, etc. I didn't have a problem. I just fought through it, because not everyone's the same as you, right? We all have different levels of willpower, and some of us need more love than than anything else. So
the next piece of that is I'm going to ask you to answer what you feel, Kevin, on that issue, and then we'll go to the other parts. Do you feel that there's an understanding among the brotherhood intergenerationally? And Kevin is 34, so he's at the top of the focus.
Right.
But I told him not to forget from whence he's come. So he's speaking from 18 to 34 wisdom.
Exactly. So for me, I was born right on the cusp of the 80s and so I'm a millennial, 1990, right on the cusp of the 80s, where hard work was the only thing that worked, where we went into the age of technology, internet, and things like that. So I feel like because I have that identity of hard work is the only thing that works, mixed with working efficiently, I think what I've learned over time is the older generations believe in what's tangible. Is that going to get the job done? And for us in the newer generations, we believe in what's going to get it done the most efficient way, not so much as the easiest, but the most efficient way so that we can get the same results. So to answer your question, Eugene, is there an understanding? I feel like for Black men, the understanding comes with communication. Are you able to communicate what you want and how you're going to get to that point to the older generation? And from older generation to the younger generation, do you have the ability to give them grace to make the mistakes, to get through it, to grow through it? So for me, it's yes. Communication is the best thing that allows us to connect. If this was 5 years ago, I would say no. But given the state of where we are as Black men in 2024, I've started seeing a lot of collaboration more. And I think because of that, we've been able to help push each other up. And you guys have been allowing us to stand on your shoulders. So.
Thank you. Let me ask the more experienced brothers on this issue. From your perspective, how do you feel that there's an openness to the communication with the younger generation? I'll start with Pastor Ray, or Reverend Ray.
No, I don't think it is.
Explain it.
So I could answer from this perspective, right? We've been having listening sessions throughout Florida, and our target audience is the rightfully cynical crowd. So when you're in a space that you listen to them, you're like, no, there's not. This brother said it right when there's a disconnect in thinking. Back in my day, you need to marry a doctor. Nowadays, you need to marry your social media influencer. You see what I'm saying? You got social media influencers that are making $1 million a year, right? So we haven't found a way to communicate that with grace. And we're not even listening to understand where they're coming from. We're trying to force them to do it our way. And out of respect, they just shut down and say, okay, Rev, you got that. You got that, do you, right? So we see the disconnect. We see them not coming back to churches. We see them not coming to these quote unquote spaces that we create for them versus going to sit with them and just listening to what they're thinking about and being present in their lives and their initiatives. That's the biggest disconnect. We're just not listening.
Stephen, anybody else? Rohan, you want to comment on it?
I do think there's a disconnect as well as Pastor said, and where we're getting the information from or where they're seeking it, right? I think our younger generation now feels like what we're offering is not what the world is giving through our social media. And I think as Ray says, if we're not listening and hearing what they're asking for, they're going to find it somewhere else.
I'm a lawyer, so yeah, excuse me. All that was great and wonderful. I'm going to take the exact opposite way. Everything you said is true. We don't listen. We were raised by people who ain't listening to us. Right? And that's fine, because that's just way of being a black man in America. It's partially it's experiential, and partially it's an initiation. You're handed it. Other old heads in the community tell you what it is. You don't believe them. You're never going to believe them. It all comes true, though. And the best part of that is the good advice sticks with you your whole life. The bad advice you'll forget about, or you'll laugh about later with your friends. So it's not that I don't think we don't listen, but just like the brother said, you can marry an influencer now. You don't need to marry a doctor. Those doctors still make $1 million. That part hasn't changed. The world may be different than the world I was born into. I was born in 1973. It sounds like a long time ago. I swear to God, it doesn't feel like a long time ago. Right? I'm going to get on the plane and go with my friends to Vegas and have as good fun as any one of you. But at the same time, I also have 51 years of experience to rely on, right? So sometimes when we're hollering at the younger generation, I know it sounds preachy. It's annoying because, okay, yeah, I know, go to school, get good grades, apply myself. It's the same thing. It's redundant. It doesn't mean it's a lie. It just means it actually works. And you might even get that same advice from a brother who didn't do that. That's the other thing. Sometimes folks are telling you what they wish they had listened to. Mm-hmm. So and I say that to say I want to engage everybody, right? But I think the only way to do it is honestly. Yes, we get annoyed because we'll hear somebody younger say something that we think is, to be frank, stupid. And we can't keep our mouths shut. But there's a reason for that. And that is because the cats that raised us couldn't keep their mouth shut. And I swear to you, we said the same stupid thing. I swear to you. So I know it's going to sound preachy. We're just like, I swear to God, we really are just like you. And more importantly, in enough years, you'll be just like me. And I say this to say this. I see brothers throughout this room. I don't know enough brothers in this room. That's my bad. I live in Miami-Dade County. If we were in Miami-Dade County, I'm sure I'd know more brothers. If we were in West Palm, we'd probably know more brothers. Broward. We are all within 65 miles of each other, and we, as a tri-state, don't do enough together. So thank you, Gene, for having this here and making me cross that border that I never crossed. Mm-hmm. And we need to do more of that. So that was to wrap it up. Like, I like that. He was like, wrap it up, wrap it up.
No, 100%. And I think just to piggyback off of everyone on this panel and what we're saying, I guess the question now or the concern is, when does that disconnect continue to be able, how do we change that disconnect, right? And I think what it is first and foremost, listening, right? As we're saying, engaging with the younger generation, understanding their perspective. You don't have to agree, but you at least try to understand.
Respect their perspective.
Respect their perspective. And I think the respect is where a lot of younger generations become closed off, to where now their ideas and thoughts, they're trying to go to other individuals instead of their older predecessors. Because a lot of older generation men are like, why aren't y'all coming to me? I've had 45 years of experience. And I think it's more so the people in the household that you may live with, father figures, etc. A lot of younger generations can't connect with them. And when do we get to the point where we realize, yes, there's a lot of wisdom that you guys may uphold, but what doesn't apply, we let it fly. We're in a newer generation where some things that worked 20 years ago don't work anymore, right? Just like how you said, you had no choice but to marry a doctor 20 years ago. That's your way to financial freedom. That way doesn't apply anymore. Financial freedom is anything that it's not the only way, right? To where now you can turn your passions into profits, which I've been able to do, right? To where back in the day, someone like me, your daughter might not have been the best person for me, maybe. I probably didn't even exist 20 years ago, right? But we're able to do this and not even on the same level of these labels. It's the same thing. I'm in the music industry. It's the same thing to where you had to go through labels to be able to even get a shot, right? I have my own independent label. I don't need to go to anybody's infrastructure. I built it on my own. So when do we realize certain things? Yes, you learn from them because I was in a major label system. I had no choice but to go through those things, right? But I went through them and created my own outlet that worked, essentially. So I think the biggest thing that we're trying to take away from when it comes to the older and younger generation is what works, right? And getting to that point of it can work in multiple different ways.
And that's a critical point. As we look at the world, it's a different marketplace out there. It's in every single field of endeavor. And during this campaign, you've heard VP Harris talking about an initiative. You don't have to have college degrees to get certain civil jobs. Everybody is not going to college. And sometimes I know people that have gone to college and come out in 4 years and don't have a clue what to do. And people that didn't go to college are further advanced than they were. So we just have to really realize social media, which is foreign to a lot of us older people, has created, and AI is going to create even more of a different environment and landscape than we're used to. But y'all are touching collectively on the respect and the listening. And I think it's critical that we create that space to foster conversation. Yeah, we're all moving so fast. And I know all of you all on this panel and in the audience have had so many occasions. Kurt Brown over there with Handy deals with young men all the time at Handy. One of I think the most successful programs I've seen in South Florida. But we have to pause to have a conversation as opposed to everything just being transactional, and move on. And as I've gotten older, and I can't believe I'm one of the older statesmen here in the room at 64 on the panel, but I appreciate stopping and connecting a lot more valuable than just passing people. And at the end of life, you really don't know that person. You know their name, you know they may be a lawyer, you know they're a business person, X, Y, and Z, but you don't really know them. And we need to be more intentional, not just among our age peers, but we need to be more intentional upon all generations because we learn from each other, us from them and them from us. Rev?
There's a biblical principle that I try to follow, right? And it's when Jesus tells the disciples to go into all the world and influence them, right? Go into all the different worlds, go into the different areas of life. If he wanted us to go on earth, he would say go on earth, but he says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. I translated to, I need you to go to these different sectors. Here's the principle. You got to go to where they are. They will listen to you when you build authentic relationships in their spaces. So pull up at the park where they gather. Where are they, right? They're playing video games. My grandson teaching me how to play video games. I ain't trying to teach him nothing. I just want him to teach me how to play. But in those moments, right, his guards are down that he could tell me things that I need to listen to from a perspective of love, right? And it's not what I've seen as a pastor is we create all these different initiatives at church and we say, listen, we need you to come here because here's youth night and here is so-and-so night and this is that and that and that. And we're doing all these things for the young men. But when they come to these spaces, they're guarded. And because they're guarded, they're not really sharing how they really feel. So how do I go to where they are? And over time, not just one conversation, but over time, just being there, you just find that they start to share things and you have an opportunity to download all the years of experiences and the challenges and the whatever into their lives and let them cipher through all of that kind of stuff. They're going to take the good and spit the bad out.
Yes, sir. Kevin? Kevin, do we have are we going to get a mic for the, okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, one thing Eugene touched on was it not being transactional. One thing I hold dear to me and one of my greatest strengths, and this is just something that I got to get off my chest for everyone, is to be able to honor relationships. Once you honor relationships, respect comes with that. The listening comes with that. The open lines of communication comes with that. And that brings that open line of communication from the older generation to the younger generation, to where now you can understand me, be there and support me and honor our relationship. And then I can come and meet you where you're at to understand and honor our relationship. So that's one of the big things that I really agree with you on, not making it transactional. Let's be genuine with each other. And I think with that, that'll begin to bring us closer to each other and learn how to lean into each other more.
And one of the, just doing some preparation, some of the studies that have touched this issue, and there's a lot of studies out there trying to understand our brotherhood. When we come together, there are growth opportunities for both sides. And it can be an inclusive environment. One of the things that we have to be careful with, and several have said it, is we can't not do it because someone's going to fill that space. And if we're not willing to give of our time to connect, somebody else is going to connect. And I met Jakari at a Black philanthropy reception at the Urban League about 2 months ago, I'm guessing. I introduced myself to him. I said, hey, let's have some lunch. We both have had to cancel lunch. I think we're set for later this week. But when I thought about this event, I said, well, that's why God put him in my life, to be the ideal person to speak. I mean, he comes at this from a totally different perspective, and he succeeded and is succeeding. So it's really important that we recognize that this is a growth opportunity, not just looking at they can learn from us, but we can learn from them. Because we're now existing in a world that's a lot different. When I started practicing law in 1985, we didn't have computers in 1985. Al Gore hadn't invented them yet. So we were way beyond computers. And I was at a lunch today talking about impact of AI on a marketing young lady who owns a marketing company. I said, how do you use AI? And she said, it allows me to be small and information is coming out quicker and on and on. The younger generation is coming up with that. I mean, y'all are growing up with that. That's foreign to us. So we can both learn how to navigate this new society. I want to not just limit it to the panel members, but we have two things going. The audience, I'm going to open up for a couple of questions, and I'm going to ask Mr. Chisholm if he has anything to put it on my podium here so I can include those who are in the audience. Is there anyone, if you want to speak, Carlos, you can go to the mic. This young man came up to me in 2 seconds. I was impressed that he's going to be a successful. Carlos, what's your last name?
It's Coulette.
Coulette. He's at Florida Memorial University. Interim President McCormick told me that he had some leaders that he was speaking to. Carlos is one of those leaders. This young man was as professional and ready when he came up to me. It speaks volumes of where he's going. Tell us what you have on your mind, Carlos.
I just wanted to say that was a really good topic. I think that's very topic. I think one of the biggest things that I have learned is it's not how you say it, it's the way you say things. And I had to learn that, yes, you could be sitting down and be like, excuse me, sir, what's your name? Clark. Okay, say Clark is saying, okay, Mr. Coulette, you did this wrong, you did this, but I've been through where you've been through, but you need to stop. That's how people say it. But if you were to say, hey, Mr. Coulette, I see you trying. I see the man that you're trying to become. But if you try this way, it might be a little better. You see what I'm saying? It's the way you say things. And then sometimes you have to learn that communication is key to everything in life. If you so aggressive with it, oh, I've been through that. I don't want to listen to you because now you've been a little aggressive. I don't want to listen to that because I already got an aggressive mom. I don't want to listen to you being aggressive. You know what I'm saying? So it's the way, as a Black man, I didn't have a father. I had to teach myself how to communicate in society. And I'm doing a really good job. And I'm just saying that it's the way you talk. It's the way you honor, you say it. And then one of the biggest things I learned is growing up is transparency and honesty is two different things. Transparency is saying, hey, I'm doing this. I'm about to go. Like I told the president, me and him talk a lot. I was like, sir, he told us about it. I was like, hey, We leaving at 5:30. It's 5 of us. It's me, Lionel, Akil, Carlos, Isaiah, and OJ. That's transparency. Honestly, it's like, hey, we going here. We'll be back at this time. It's two different things. And the way you communicate, it should be transparency. As a black man, people look for us to be honest. But if you open and you transparency, it opens up the door for a lot of opportunities as a black man. And I think y'all, what are y'all doing? It's really good. And one of the biggest questions is for me is, for a black man society, how can me as a man better myself without when someone tells me no? Because sometimes it hurts because you go in a room, you think you have everything. I'm carrying this notebook. I'm like, hey, sir, my name is Carlos Manuel Color III. I go to Florida Memorial University. I'm a bio in business. I'm a bio major, and I major in business administration. I own the entrepreneur club at our campus. I'm the 5,000 Role Models president of the chapter of Care City. I'm doing things to help out my community. But sometimes I could get the no, and it kind of little hurts. And sometimes the door won't open for a while. I have to really build myself, build my confidence back up, because I have someone that's my color telling me, even though he told me no, he's telling me why he told me no in a way that shouldn't be talked to as a young man.
Very good points, Carlos, and I appreciate that. Some of the comments from the chat have been the importance of genuine relationships, which we've talked about, and Carlos, you touched it. And another point was the importance of consistency. If we have this conversation today and we don't come back for another year, we wasted our time. You really wasted your time. The intent is that we need an ongoing, frequent ability to bring our village together. And we spend our time doing a whole lot of stuff. I lose hours looking at the Miami Dolphins, and that's sometime a waste. Brother Battle, as your heart was broken on Sunday. We need to spend, or we need to look at the game together. And those types of things, we have to find, whoever gave the comment about the consistency of this effort is really critical, and that needs to be a part. This is just a start of the conversation. There were a couple of people who are on the ground, in the trenches. Brother Lyle Muhammad in Miami. I don't know the gentleman, but he's the CEO of the Circle of Brotherhood. He was really engaged and highly recommended, but he's getting an award tonight at the Black Achievers for JM family. And I said, go, get your reward. But he talked about, we need to follow up. So we need to do this. It's any other questions or comments from?
Wait, are we able to answer that question first?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a really good question.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to touch on it first before, I bring it up, because I know you guys can speak on the nose a lot more than me. You know what I mean? Y'all have been doing it for way longer. So I'm gonna just touch on it for you, brother. First and foremost, that was a great question, Carlos, right? So first thing I would say is 100%. I think that what he touched on when it comes to the younger generation, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think a lot of people don't really realize the delivery is key, right? And that'll turn a person on and off, right? And I kind of use the analogy of a compliment sandwich, right? It's like, give me the good, touch on the bad, and then give me the good again at the end, right? And a lot of times you might look at it as flattery, like, why do we need to do that? But I think, like we said, the older generation, when it comes, you guys, they just get straight to the point, right? Like, you ain't doing this, tighten up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that right there isn't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? It's not, and I think it was effective because he created those men back in the older generations, but it's like, that's not effective for us, right? And that's not effective communication, because it only opens you up so much, and allows, I think, a lot of men to be hardened to the world, right? It doesn't allow you to be able to be in touch with yourself internally. And it creates this kind of bitterness, in a sense, to where now you feel like you have to be that way. So that was the first thing I think I wanted to touch on. And when it comes to the no's, right? Beyond the accolades of, the music industry, I've been in this industry for 5 years. There's a lot of no's that you're going to hear, right? I've been signed to a label since I was 18. I'm now independent for about 2 years now. I was signed to Steve Rifkin. He did Fat Joe, Remy Ma, DMX, etc. So a lot of times we hear a lot of these no's, especially as a young black brother, with little to no experience. You 18, I might be making waves, but it's not waves that they want to hear, right? And a lot of times, it's also in the Bible, quote me, they always say, carry yourself a lot older than you usually are. I don't know what the scripture is, but it's somewhere in there, right? And that's where it's like they see you 18. A lot of times these older generation guys, they're like, oh, he's 18. I can overlook him right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to have him come in the room until he's 28, 30. You know what I'm saying? Until he gets some more experience, which is not the case because a lot of people mature at different ages, right? And I think a lot of times we have a lot of older grown children, right? Like you 40, but I can go through the same issue as you one time and get it right. But you done went through it 100 times and you think you know more, right? Like, and that's where it's like, that's not the case, right? And I think a lot of times we need to be able to understand the difference between providing an opportunity and then being able to scold you or not being able to provide it for you because of the youth, right? So when it comes to those no's, realize it's a part of the game. And I think they're going to tell you that the same way as me. It's a part of the game. That's what it's about. You going to get a bunch of no's. But I always tell them God's rejection is God's redirection, right? A lot of times those no's are saving you from something that you may not see, right? And you got to watch the wolf in sheep's clothing because in these industries, there are a lot of those, right? And so I think those no's, bro, you got to be praising the Lord for those, honestly. I be clapping because I know that I'm going to be led to where I need to be and not where I want to be. So.
Well stated. Well stated.
Yeah. I'll do this real quick. It depends on lawyers. Lawyers, everything depends on the situation. Depends on the situation. If you're selling, the no is the best thing in the world because it allows you to move on to the next person, right? And it's contact. So even if I'm selling myself, I'd like you to use my legal services. No, I'm not looking for a lawyer. Okay, take my card. I'll check back in with you in a while, right? Sometimes the conversation you have today won't even bear fruit for 18, 24 months. Doesn't matter. If it's selling, the contact is what matters. If, on the other hand, you're looking for development, you're looking for mentorship, you're looking for some guidance, and someone says, no, I don't want to give you that right now. Yeah, he's right. That's probably somebody who does not want to help you, probably no help to you. Last thing. There are two things I tell all of my lawyers, and I learned both of these things from the street. Carry yourself with competence and confidence. Competence, you know what you're doing. Confidence, you can convince everyone else in the room you know what you're doing. Because I'm old enough to know, and I learned this like when I was about your age, because the things I used to do at your age. I'm old enough to know that if you act as if you are as if, let me tell you that again. If you act as if you are as this means I could walk into clubs wherever I was, never pay a dime if I acted like I was supposed to be. Swear to God. Please on the internet, don't come find me and tell me that I got into your club. And I mean, when I tell you, and I'm not telling you to do that, what I'm telling you is, no matter what situation you ever find yourself in, if it's a room full of black people, room full of white people, room full of green people, if act as if you are as if. But if, and you teach you this too, if you act scared, you are scared. And everybody will pick up on it.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'm gonna say is this, and I've noticed this in a lot of young brothers, there is a hesitance to be a leader. I think I'm noticing there's also a hesitance to organize. And you probably can speak more to that than I can. But there's definitely a hesitance to be a leader amongst young brothers because they don't want to be responsible for anybody else. Leadership is the ultimate responsibility for everybody else. It's also the ultimate responsibility, but it's also the ultimate honor. And if you're ever given the opportunity to lead anything, take it. The more you do it, the better you'll be at it. If you're really good at it, you won't even worry about the influencing. Someone will pay you a lot of money for the rest of your natural life.
Yeah. Those are all great points. I'm keeping my eye on the clock because we have other. No. You got to bill your hours, and I know how that goes. No, I'm not trying. There are great conversations, and we can go for another hour on this. One question was asked: do you think integration had an adverse effect in dismantling the cohesiveness of the Black community, especially Black men?
No. And whoever asked that question should read a history book. The answer's no.
Okay. Any other comments?
So why did I say that? Yeah, go ahead. Because it's terrible. Because this is an internet theory that does the rounds. It came from Dr. Claude Anderson and others. And the idea and the concept was we'd have been all better off if we never did business with anyone else but ourselves. Except this young brother right here got what, 45 million streams? I guarantee every one of them dollars ain't only us. We live in a world. It is a globe, it's round, and it's full of a lot of other people. I'm a Black American man in America. Hell, I am a minority in this town because I'm a Black American. I'm not from anywhere else but America. If I don't look at all of my brothers in this room and say, okay, this is my brother, then I'm standing alone. If you stand alone, you're weaker than if you stand together. Only reason I say that integration thing is a hustle is because it puts us away and alone. And it wants us out of the way.
You think segregation puts us away and alone?
Correct.
Yeah. You were going to, Pastor Ray. Let's hear from Pastor Ray.
Listen, I got cards for
Yeah.
I think when we got into, I got to be careful how I say this, because even though we in a room of safe brothers, we ain't safe because a million people watching us on this internet. So I think when we were segregated and we were on an island, we paid a lot more attention to each other. And the idea was to empower each other. I'm not saying that we didn't need other people, because we did. But when the idea of integration came, we left our own, and the white hotels became a lot more comfortable. And the white schools were better. And the white ice was colder. So did we need other people? Of course. But I think that when we got into integration, we stopped recognizing the value in our own community, among our own businesses. And we started almost demonizing our own businesses, right? And we started giving grace to other people's business. Almost as if there's a black roofer that comes to your house and he ain't get everything right. All of a sudden, but all them black businesses. Nah, it's just that one guy that got a problem, right? And it's just that one restaurant that got a problem. As a Jamaican immigrant, there's the thing that says, well, all them Jamaican restaurants got bad customer service. I ain't gonna argue with you there. So even though integration should have helped, right? You got to understand the spirit that I'm coming from with it. When integration was introduced, all of a sudden our schools weren't good, and you see black culture and black businesses just started to suffer from it.
Yeah, I'm gonna move the, if you will, and we're gonna have these discussions. We're gonna meet again. I know. There's some good ones. Go ahead. Just make them a little briefer, because there's some topics I want to make sure we hit. Go ahead, Kevin.
I just wanted to jump right into that point. I don't think it's a matter of the integration. I think the integration was great. It helped put us where we need to be, both financially, socially, and things of that nature. I think the better question, and the thing that we need to ream around a little bit, is how do we circulate the black dollar more so that we can support each other, right? I think that's the better question. How do we go get it, bring it home, and build better infrastructure in all those aspects? So I agree. No, I don't think it was bad, and it didn't deteriorate the black community. I think, how do we maintain our culture, and how do we use the dollar to build a better infrastructure?
Yes, sir. Rohan. I'm sorry.
I got a question.
And then Jakari.
So how do we bring it back to the community? But the thing is, I don't think we believe enough in our service enough, right? Because again, in doing events and also being around some of these athletes and so forth, right? I ask these questions, these NFL players, these NBA players, right? They're not hiring the black agents. They're not hiring the black financial advisors. We don't believe in our own services. So how do we get to the point where we're believing in our own services that we don't take it to the colonizer?
Go ahead, Jakari.
Now this is really a jam-packed question. I think just to add to what he was saying, it's crazy because like when we all segregated, right? When we started to integrate, that's when all of us became segregated, if you know what I mean, right? And so I think what it is too in our communities, our leaders, because we know we had leaders and advocates to be able to teach us certain things to where they were able to bring people and culture together. They say 3 people can take over a whole village, right? So I think a lot of times our leaders, they begin to become, they either get murdered or they begin to get assassinated. And then the leaders now that we do have in our communities for the younger generation, we know they're not the best people to look up to, right? Well, especially when it comes to the artistry and the music, a lot of the things they're talking about aren't even things of success. They're things to deteriorate, to deteriorate our people, right? And I think what he was saying as well, when it comes to that standing alone, I'm a leader. But besides the accolades that he was stating as a 40th Street, the biggest thing when it comes to me is the social impact that I'm able to make through my music. Because everything is positive, everything's purposeful, everything is driven to be able to help our generation of Black boys and Black men to develop. I dedicate my time to be able to speak at nonprofits. I spoke at Pompano to be able to also talk to them about my experience growing up in the community. But when it comes to someone that's changing the status quo, we don't stand with them, right? When it comes to me, there's minimal support. I have to do everything kind of on my own to get to the same level as an artist that might be talking about killing, drugs, etc., and murder music. That's not what I stand for. You know what I'm saying? So the algorithm isn't favoring that. And until we're able to actually stand together, like, no, we support him and what he's doing, that leader, we need followers. That's the only way to be able to make a change. There needs to be other people that's following the movement. But some people are afraid to do so, or their mindset is already fixed because the internet is 70, 80% negativity. But that 1, 10, 20% that's able to bleed through, which I've been able to do by the grace of God, we need to support it. If we don't, then it's going to continue to be the money and murder music.
Yeah. Let me ask a question on that note. We're in the campaign season. I guess it's 7 days to go. 7 days to go. If you could put up slide number 1 for me, Brandon. 7 days to go. And this was an article just recent, the 25th of October. Why Black men still feel devalued in this presidential race. Using that as a backdrop, why do you think there's less support for Vice President Harris among men than there is among women? I'm speaking of Black men.
All right, so I've kind of shot at everybody. I'm shooting at you a little bit. One, that is a myth. Let me say this again so everybody hears you. No Black man, you are not going to be reason why anybody loses any elections come a week from today. Because I don't care what anybody tells you. You are 75 to 85% turnout.
Compared to the white.
Compared to everybody. The only person on the planet who's ever beaten you at this particular game is a Black woman. And when it mattered in Ohio, and her reproductive rights were on the ballot, you outperformed her. You were there more for her than she was for herself. I say that to say this. Black folks, particularly Black men, we like to mind our business, but everybody wants to give us attention that we don't deserve. Right? Right? That's the truth, though. So Stacey Abrams runs, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's going to do terrible with Black men. She did better than Biden and Obama. It doesn't matter what we do. We ain't doing enough, and everybody likes to pick at us. Now, that being said, shout out to Obama, because had Obama not said what he said, which was wrong, but he said it, Gene wouldn't have called me. Shout out to him. Right? So sometimes that kick in the butt wasn't for the folks on the sidelines. It was for us folks who was already activated to be more active, and we could all do more. So yes, Black men, we could do more. But we're not going to be the reason. It's not like we're not doing enough. Yes, we're undervalued and underappreciated, if only because we are the second most reliable voter base that any party, Republican, Democrat, or Green, has on the planet.
Why is it that historically, over decades, the system has devalued our participation in our vote as Black men?
I would tell you, I'd explain to you why it's a myth. You're interesting. White people, sorry, internet. White people like to talk about you, to think about what you're thinking about. They never really understood you. So they can't figure out if you're going to show up this time or not. They didn't think you was going to show up for Obama. And that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we were talking about Obama in our barbershops and on our basketball courts before he won in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about him before they even knew we were talking about him. I have these fights with the Democratic Party because they don't spend money on us, which I think is your point.
Mm-hmm.
They don't direct resources to us when it could matter. You want to see us really excited, get to us early, right? We're thinking about football season, basketball season during the draft.
Yeah. All right.
Right?
Rohan.
And we're talking about it during the draft, but nobody wants to ask us any questions until a week before.
Right, right.
That's offensive.
Yeah.
We should be mad at that. But we're going to, I don't like putting it in terms of why we're not going to do what we're supposed to do. When we do what we're supposed to do, we always have done what we're supposed to do. I do blame some of the other parties and people around, but that's me. I'm sure everybody else can curse out the right people.
Rohan.
Yeah, I think personally, for black men, we're devalued all around the board. From in the black community, from sometimes some of our black women, I think we're just totally, I think the black man is the most traumatized person on this planet. And because I speak to us every day and I go through talking to them and find out what's going on. But I don't think the issue is why black men are not going to support her. It's one underlying issues. If you replace the candidate, if you take Kamala out and you put anybody else, they're not going to support that person. Black men have a problem with the gay situation in America. Mm-hmm. That is the number one issue why they're not supporting the candidate. If you replace her, it's going to be the same issue where they're going to be talking down on that person and saying they're not supporting them. It's the gay issue.
Well, when I asked this question to simulate conversation, Biden ran in 20 and got a higher percentage, 93% of the black vote. And right now she's at 83, 85. Why did he, with this basically the same platform with gay and lesbian diversity, gender diversity, etc., still score higher?
So over time, there's been with the Democratic Party, black men they're having a problem with the gay agenda. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to them, and that's their main thing. They're just having a big issue with that agenda.
Okay.
So can I add on that?
Certainly.
I think that a lot of rightful and cynical voters are sick of the okie doke. We heard the same thing before. We heard the same promise, right? And now we are at a place now where we're like, you know what? Get out of here. Now, I've been talking about this for the last 2 months. People are starting to listen now. The Republican Party, their messaging is amazing. Whether you believe it or not, they have amazing messaging. They say, if you don't vote this year, you're going to die. Right? They say you are going to die. You are going to lose your privilege. These immigrants are coming in and blah, blah, blah is coming in. And if you don't stand up, we are losing our white privilege and we need to regain that, right? That resonates with their base. Here's what the Democratic message is. You need to be a Democrat. Folks are like, I'm not on that. So you see those statistics, right? Where they are is because a lot of brothers and sisters are just tired of the okie doke. They say, I'm just gonna sit this one out.
Gene.
Yes.
Can I don't want to miss this. Keep it real moment. Reverend Ray, you had a keep it real moment when you talked about this service or lack thereof in the Jamaican restaurants, right? So we laugh because you touched a point. I think for us as older brothers, we need to hear from the younger brothers more so. And on this point that we're talking about the devaluing of the black man, Gene, and here's what I mean by this. An example of the disconnect came about with the genesis for this conversation. Some young brothers were explaining to us why they wanted to vote for Trump in the election. And it wasn't necessarily even that the fact that they were voting Republican, but it was their rationale that they were given to us as older brothers of why they thought Trump was a better candidate. And it shut us down immediately. I mean, we had a disconnect right there. So I would like to hear from any of the younger brothers that are here. For example, we're talking about the political aspirations, and if you think Trump is a better candidate, and why so, as a young black man, that you're thinking that you would either not vote one, or you would vote for Trump in the election, the Republican candidate. So that's a keep it real moment that we need to hear from them, and we listen and then take
and then we can.
I'm gonna start it off. Yeah. I'm gonna start it off, and then y'all boys can piggyback. You know what I'm saying? And we can kind of just see where it goes. Because I know when it comes to politics, well, I learned at an early age from an older person, politics and religion can break up relationships. So yeah. So I'm gonna start it off though. So I would say for me, and I think for when it comes to the younger generation, I think a lot of things that we established earlier when we were talking was trust, right? And I think a lot of us don't trust the individuals in office. And I can definitely speak for me. There's no trust. It's an underlying of like, there's always a hidden agenda. And I think we're like, to be transparent, we don't go for that BS. So a lot of us be wanting to just sit out because it's like, if we sit in, we don't even know what we're supporting. Like, we hear a little bit and it's like, I don't trust him and I don't trust her. For us, it's really the lesser of two evils. And that's how I've been looking at the presidential election, which is why it's hard for us to want to be able to get engaged or vote or be able to exercise that right when we don't even know who we're giving the victory to. It's like we're getting involved just to hurt ourselves, it feels like. So I would say for me, that's one of the main reasons why I wasn't going to, but I ended up doing it. Just for the simple fact, I felt like it was my responsibility in a sense, and because I wanted to get more younger people to vote, because my platform is a bunch of Gen Zers. So I made sure that I posted, go vote, right? And if you're not going to get involved in necessarily the presidential election, 100% get involved in your local elections. That's what I advocate for. So whatever city you stay in, whether it be Lauderhill, et cetera, your local state representatives, your senators, get involved in that, because that affects you, to me, way more than the presidential election. So that's what I was advocating for. Just go out and vote, right? So that's what I would say. And you can go ahead and pass it on, brother.
Well, just to piggyback off that, before I get into my statement, I want to first introduce myself. My name is Lionel Kimball II. I'm a junior religion and philosophy scholar from the beautiful city of Boynton Beach, Florida, and I also attend. Yes, sir. 561, always represented. I'm a student of the only HBCU in South Florida and the home of Lift Every Voice, and that is the illustrious Florida Memorial University. And when it comes to how the devaluing of a black man, honestly, the way how I view this election is simply just go vote. It's more than just voting in a presidential election. It's more than just voting in your city and your local election, or just voting for someone to represent your county. It's all about just using your voice and going to vote. And I feel as if with also the religious standpoint, just the same way how you can vote somebody to be your pastor, the same way how you can vote for someone to be the chairman of your local church's ministry, it's the same way how you can use that same exercise, your same exercise of vote, and using it to go take yourself to a voting poll. I don't care if you got to sit there, wait there, stand there, or sit in your car for a couple of minutes or maybe an hour or so. Just use it and vote. And the personal way of how I've been doing this election is I personally wouldn't want to trust anyone that has over 40 plus felony indictments. I personally wouldn't want to trust anyone that has failed to even rent to a black man or would even allow a black man to sit or work in their building. I personally wouldn't allow someone that wants to push a Project 2025 movement that he so-called says that he's not a part of, but has all things to be a part of it. I personally would not want to vote for someone that says that he just depends on black men. And when it comes to what you, Kari, being in the music business,
check.
Anyways, like I was saying, I purposely feel as if when it comes to these elections, I personally wouldn't want to vote for someone that just does not want to even see the value of a black man, when we have a candidate that sees not just the potential, but sees the true meaning value of a black man. Not just because she graduated from a historically black college or university, but simply because she actually has a plan for our black man and is willing to do the work and do it by any means necessary. That's how I view it, honestly.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Next.
Well, good day to you all. My name is Isaiah Webb. I'm a freshman at Florida Memorial University. My major is elementary education, and I serve as the freshman class president. What Jakari and Lionel said was amazing. But I feel like a lot of brothers are confused. They just hear things and they just run with it. It's like they just hear, oh, Trump this, Trump that, and they just, they just go piggyback off the internet. The internet is like a big thing nowadays. So if you hear something, you're just gonna hear it and you'll be like, oh, well, that's the new wave. We know how people are. But what stood out to me is what Jakari said. I've always advocated for the community first. Back home in Atlanta, I've always stayed in the community. I was never a national person with the presidents. I mean, they're cool, nice title and whatnot, and they do change things. But I always knew that it started at the bottom, and then we could, build it at top. So, yeah, that's where I'm gonna stay right there. I feel like there are two great candidates. I'm not gonna bash none of them. I have to do my research on more of them, but I feel like we should start locally, and then we can,
and
go national.
And let me show you something. I didn't get your name. Give me your name again.
Isaiah Webb.
Isaiah Webb. Would you show me, Brandon, slide number 4? Because I think one of the issues we have is information, knowledge of facts. And in one of the things about social media, I think we're getting smaller blips of information as opposed to all the information. This is just a piece of the information and we know these things. We've all heard these things. From 1972, somebody mentioned discriminated against Black woman getting an apartment in his property. We know about the Central 5 that young men, based on a lie, he took an ad out in multiple papers that they need to be executed. We know what he did to Obama, talking about in March 11 about birth year rights. There's a pattern that we're going through. We know Charlottesville. We know the guys had, tiki torches marching through the community. And what did he say? Instead of condemning that, he said they're good people on both sides. We know what he did to Colin Kaepernick, a man who simply kneeled down. He didn't turn his back. He didn't shoot a bird. He kneeled down in the most humble posture. And Trump said, you need to fire the SOB. He called our African nations and countries shithole countries. Those are his words. Yesterday, 2 days ago, Sunday, called, sitting there and tolerated a comedian to talk about Puerto Rico is an island of trash.
You know the interesting thing about that real quick? The same comedian made a watermelon joke. No one cared.
Yeah.
I know you did. I did too.
Yeah.
Real fast. More importantly, right before Byron Donalds,
and Dixie.
Yeah, they played Dixie.
And he came out on Dixie.
Byron Donalds
Yeah.
But no one cares.
Nobody cares.
In past elections, that would end a Republican campaign.
Right. And that's why we cannot allow that stuff to think you said there are two good candidates. I want to give you some of the facts, and you could do your own research. But in addition to the shithole countries, he had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with white supremacists. Now, when you hang out with certain people, it's a reflection of your heart. And, Robinson, who is the gubernatorial candidate in North Carolina, he said that he was Martin Luther King on steroids. This is a guy that's been as disgraceful to our race and our women as you could possibly be. So we just have to be careful. And one of the things I want to say is sitting out is not an option. He wants you to sit out. He wants you all to sit out. When you sit out, it's a win for them. We can't sit out. What we have to do is get engaged. And we, this is a critical election, and I am truly, truly concerned that if we sit this election out, as he said in broad daylight in that meeting with the I think it was the Catholic congregation, when he said, you only need to vote one more time and you won't have to vote again. Folks, we can sit here and think this is child's play, and it's going to be too late when we wake up and they're going to do Project 2025. That stuff is real. And if not taken the time, in a couple of days, you need to read through that stuff. Get a skinny on Project 25. There's nothing in there that makes us comfortable. Nothing in there makes us comfortable. And I think it answers the question very, very clearly where our allegiance should be. You're not going to, one of the questions asked, do we not see the irony in one minority group holding back another? Are Black men willing to sink the ship because of one issue? Whatever the issue is, are we willing? There's no politician, there's not a people that I agree with everything they say. It's not our nature to agree with everything. We're not photocopies of each other. But you have to make some decisions. What's better, not just for you, but what's better for your family and your community. It's bigger than one of us. And I'm concerned because when he's talking about we just want one day to give police, law enforcement immunity to go beat the hell out of people, guess where they're coming? They're coming to our Black community and our Black men, and none of us are immune to it. On Saturdays, I look just like anybody else with shorts and a t-shirt on. So I look dressed up today. I'm another Black man when I go into Home Depot. And if we don't take this stuff seriously, it's going to be what we did with Gillum. When Gillum was running for governor, he lost by 33,000 votes. Imagine the state of Florida if Gillum had won and DeSantis was gone. Imagine DEI. Imagine our Black history. Imagine all the AP courses that have been taken away from us. Why? Because we didn't vote. And Gillum wasn't perfect, but he was damn sure better than DeSantis.
You know what I think that's important for us to recognize, that there's different messaging that will land with different groups. This message lands with us, but I'm talking about Ray and Poochie and them, right? That's who I'm talking about. How do we, as a group of Black men with experience, right, come together, listening to each other, and create messaging that will resonate to different areas of our communities?
Because we are part of the generation that's able to vote. I just turned 21 a couple of months ago. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, well, my bad, a couple months ago. Let me not say that. But what I'm saying, it's a couple days to other people. But what I'm saying is, we now have the right to vote, right? And so I think as we were having a sidebar conversation talking about it, he was explaining to me how the reason that they're so angry or outraged that we don't feel the exact same way as them. But I was also explaining to him, how can we experience something that we necessarily didn't go through? Like 2011, 2001, 9/11, all these different things you guys experienced, we weren't there for. We weren't even born yet. So it's like, we can't feel the same emotions of things we didn't connect to, right? And I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to this day and age, you remember how something makes you feel. Not exactly what happened, but you remember how it made you feel in that moment. And it resonates and it plays back as you continue to grow. So I think a lot of times it's a lot of misinformation, first and foremost. The media can screw and scrutinize certain things and certain people to look a certain type of way. When you open up information, it's quick attention spans for our generation, right? So it's always swiping. So it's like, as you swipe, you see the same things over and over and over again. You begin to not know what's really going on. You know, it's a lot of information at one time. The human brain can only decipher so much. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're seeing this, you're seeing this, you're seeing this. And it's all different perspectives. And 80% of them may even be wrong, right? But it's like certain outlets, they produce these certain things about these candidates that you don't know. So a lot of times when it's an overindulgence of information, your brain get fried. You don't want nothing to do with it at that point.
Let me raise a point on that, and then, young man, I'll hear you. Your point that we don't know their history. We're not born. I compliment the Jewish community. The Jewish community teach their newborns their history. They know their history and they have a motto. They're not going to ever forget their history. We as people of color in our churches and in other fraternities, sororities, other spaces we control, we shouldn't be relying on DeSantis to teach our history. When you do that, you get manipulated. We need to teach our own history just as the Jews have and will forever. It's no excuse that the younger generation don't know about the critical fights that our forefathers did in the 50s and the 60s and how hard we fought for things. Because if they don't know it, they don't even see it being taken away. They don't even appreciate how the Republicans have undermined the Voting Rights Act every single administration. They don't know about it. So they don't get a chance to react to it. That's our fault. That's our fault. And lastly, there is something from a guy who was a philosopher in Germany. I want to read this. It's bone chilling, and it really puts context to where we are in this political landscape right now. It says, constant lying is not aimed at making the people believe a lie, but at ensuring that no one believes anything anymore. A people that can no longer distinguish between truth and lies cannot distinguish between right and wrong. With such people, you can do whatever you want. Folks, that's where we are. That's the game plan. That's why we hear 100 lies a day from him. And people don't know the truth from the fact. And we have to be careful with that. We have to be careful with that because that's designed to numb you and to frustrate you to say, you know what? Hell, I can't even figure it out. One person saying this guy screaming this 100 times. I don't know what the truth is. We have to lock in on the truth and not allow ourselves to be manipulated with lies and worn out with lies. Go ahead, young man.
Check.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Akil Rose, serve as the SGA president at FMU. My brothers are here with me. So to answer your question, two things I want to touch on. You brought up history. Recently, I had to write an essay for a scholarship about what does our vote really mean to us as Black men. And one thing I'd say is that we, being an HBCU where our forefathers had to fight for us to get the chance to vote, we got to teach our younger brothers what that means to us and why that matters to us. So I'm from the Bahamas where, voting is, you vote for someone who gave you something tangible that you can see. Yeah. Me serving as the SGA president, they voted for me because I gave them things tangible that they can't see. I believe that the reason why some won't vote is because they can't see things that directly affect them, or they aren't looking deeply into what directly affects them. So as you said, the plan for 2025. If we take a second to see how it directly impacts us, then we vote. If we could see on our phones as we scroll what impacts us, then we'll vote. So I just believe that it's how we see voting as a power and not just some minor privilege. And then two, if we can see what can directly impact us the second we vote, or the second who gets put in those seats that we vote. Yeah, that's
good. Very good point. And what I want to do is run a clip for you. Run a clip. If you could run video number 2 for me. We all know Roland Martin. Roland Martin. We're going to just listen
when
to
I think about hashtag we did that, and that's the what I use here. Here we go to my iPad, because I asked the White House, tell me exactly what you actually accomplished in 3.5 years for African Americans. I need everybody listening. I'm just going to go through this here. So they sent me, achieved lowest Black unemployment rate on record, created 2.4 million jobs for Black workers as of August 2024, lifted 400,000 Black children out of poverty by increased SNAP benefits through updating the Thrifty Food Plan. Who wants to actually cut the SNAP program? Republicans. Grew Black American business ownership at the fastest rate in over 3 decades. Tripled the number of SBA-backed loans to Black-owned businesses. Awarded a record $10 billion in federal contracts to Black-owned small businesses in 2023. invested more than $16 billion in HBCUs, secured a $900 increase to the maximum Pell Grant Award, largest increase in the past 10 years. And here's the piece. That Pell Grant money is actually in addition to the HBCU money. Then,
and it goes on. Put up the QR code because it goes on and on and on. This is the information that we should be researching. And if you take a picture of that, how many of y'all have not voted? The young guys, you've not had a chance to vote yet. Okay, take a picture of that QR code. I think you indicated being informed. Take a if you have your phone, or if you don't, have one of your schoolmates to take a picture of it and look at that. Those are facts, that you need to look at and digest for yourself so you can make an informed decision. Not what people are saying, but what people have done is critical. Go ahead, young man. That's good.
Right quick, I wanted to say something.
Yes.
When it came to, I think one thing that a lot of us get misconstrued is we don't, especially when it comes to our Black people, we don't realize that our history is mixed in with American history. Mm-hmm. And American history isn't necessarily the history of our people, right? And a lot of times it's told from the perspective of white America. It's told from the perspective of Europeans, et cetera, and stuff like that, where we don't actually get any understanding of our people. And I think, like you said, that's so dope, is that the Jewish people, they make sure that their history is integrated into their children's life and they understand their heritage, et cetera, where they come from. And I think a lot of us don't really get that, especially growing up. We're not taught that at all, actually.
We have to do a better job at that. I think that's one of the critical things in our community, not teaching our history to our younger folks and then wondering why they go astray. We didn't teach them. It's critical. Yes, sir.
It's one thing to be for the image or try to paint the image, but it's a difference when you're actually applying yourself to make that image. How can you sustain that image? How could you build this image? But you also want to keep in touch with how could you keep this image clear? How could you not cause confusion? And that's
okay. Steve?
Real fast, haven't you been paying attention? The rules are not the same for everybody, right? You got a whole bunch of people running for president. I'm not even talking about the main two. I'm talking about a whole bunch of them. Everybody isn't playing by the same rules. And just like the way the larger world works around us, I'm gonna be honest with you, this one, to young boys, this is gonna sound like one of them old school rules, but to the old folks, we know what the rule is. The rules ain't never the same for us, and we always gotta be better. It's the only reason why I want all y'all to go to college. I know they talking about we don't need college anymore. That's for white people. Stop it. America, as far as the Black man, particularly the Black man is concerned, will always be a credential society. And even when it isn't, protect yourself enough by having some credentials. Because amazingly, everybody starts listening. I got all the same opinions I've always had. I'm a lawyer now. All of a sudden it makes sense. It doesn't matter, right? That's very frustrating, though, to be a Black man, to watch the world around you go. To watch Donald Trump say, I want to give police immunity. And ask a Trump supporter, here's the test. You need a Trump supporter, ask him what the immunity he's going to give the police. Because Gene and I know they have qualified immunity. What immunity he's going to give. But to watch somebody do that, knowing full well that you as a Black man in America could never do that. Right. You couldn't. It's frustrating.
And he said this, if the police officer makes a mistake.
They already got it.
If he makes a mistake, so now you're going to say, I'll forgive you because, they were trying to do their job. They made a mistake.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, certainly.
Knock, knock. Okay, so Kirk Brown worked in your community with young Black boys all the time. So I got just a really profound question, and I grew up in the hood. So there's this always a concept of we don't mess with people who are serious about theirs, right? Young folks, I hope you know what that means. So I think there's a question that we need to ask about the society that we're seeing today. Why is it Why is it? And I'm not speaking politically, because collective power, no one messes with collective power. And so at the end of the day, you know, I'm a history nut. So, you know, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, you told me you were going to show up, I'm there. You didn't have to convince me. You didn't have to throw some party. You didn't have to invite athletes for me to be there. You didn't have to invite celebrities to be there. You just said, the community needs you, and we showed up. So what I'm seeing on the ground for the past decade is that we're falling in love with solving small problems. We're falling in love with the easy things. Rev, the book of Nehemiah. The wall is broken, right? And our job as men is to fix the complex and stand on the wall. When the guardians are not on the wall, we have what we have today. Mm-hmm. It's a byproduct. So, election or no election, which please vote, after the election, we still need to first accept accountability that the wall is broken and we have a role.
Sir, may?
Yes, sir.
So I have the honor of organizing in Palm Beach County, Hillsborough County, Pasco County, and Pinellas County, right? And throughout the state of Florida. The objective for our Black male listener session is to create a Black male agenda. Something that you could see, something you could feel, and something that you could negotiate. Every other community is negotiating. We don't have anything tangible to negotiate from. So when you have these listening sessions in the different parts of Florida, right? And you get data saying that these are the issues that are top line, and you bring brothers back into a space for a weekend, and you say, we need to iron out an agenda that we could bring back to our communities, that strengthen our communities, you start to see something that people can negotiate from. Those things we bring at the table with the local commissioners, the local, the judges, whoever it is. We got something that we could negotiate. We need to hold that wall up, bro, but I don't think that we have something that we say, this is what we're going to use to stand on the wall. So everybody come in with their own thing. Now, I'm going to say something that really, really ticks me off, right? I see how Black leaders are bought.
Yeah, talk about it.
They're bought. They're bought. I see how pastors are bought. I'm not going to exclude us. I'm seeing how these different positions that come with titles and these award ceremonies, right? I ain't knocking nobody award ceremony, but sometimes we selling out the community to get recognition from other folk that ain't got the best interest for our community. Now, how do we know what's the best interest for our community if we ain't talking to folk?
Just to add to what Red was saying, I thought was so amazing. When it comes to our community, we don't have any faith anymore, right? And I think when it comes to any idea, before anything is tangible and you can feel it in the physical, for me, whenever it comes to anything I'm creating, whether it be music or whether I'm trying to create a program or something I'm trying to implement, it always starts here, it comes here, and then it comes here, and then it flows out like this, right? So it comes from God, it comes to my mind, it comes to my heart, and then I'm able to actually give it to you in your hand. And I think a lot of us don't really realize, and especially when it comes to the younger generation, when you open up TikTok, Instagram, social media, it's Black on Black crime in all areas, right? And it's mostly on TikTok. What I see is, if I'm ever looking at something, when it comes to anything associated with something bad, it's Black people that are attached to it. First off, Black men and Black women are involved in foolish debates, 50-50, just different ignorant stuff that don't matter, right? 20 versus 1. I just made a song about that called Pop Your Balloon. Like, where it's always Black people at the forefront of these things. Women going online, degrading themselves on social media. You got rappers getting involved, where the rappers are coming to the actual Pop Your Balloons and rating these women. They turning around, they half naked, going to the bathroom and doing God knows what in those restrooms with these artists on social media, right? So how can anyone respect us as a collective if we don't even respect ourselves? right? Especially at least not enough to do it on social media. I remember one time, bro, when it comes to anything, Muhammad Ali once said, I'm not going to argue with you in front of these white people. There was always times where I'm not going to argue I'm not going to argue with my brother. But a lot of us still engaged in that argument, and the other predators like, nah, now I want to argue. And we're on the internet for millions and millions of people to see. So when does that stop? And I think that's the conversation that really needs to be had.
Flippant answer. When the influencers stop making $1 million a year and they go back to being doctors, because then they'll take it right up off the internet. Because as long as you pay somebody to do something stupid, they gone. And by the way, I can't even get mad at black people. Right? I can't get mad at black people for doing
That's too much free money.
But
hold on, wait. To add to that point, I think, okay, so when it comes to that, right, our influencers were always in person 40 to 50 years ago. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Tupac, right? 100%, right? But all of these people ended up in the same position where they either got assassinated or murdered, right? But I think one thing that we need to realize is the influencers aren't the problem. It's the people that we're allowing to influence us, right? The people that have the most fame and the most money, et cetera, that we're giving them platforms. You know what I'm saying? Like, our people are giving these people the money that they can't influence us if we don't allow them to. So I think what it is we need leaders. We need social media leaders, influencers, et cetera. But we need the right ones, right? That's really the conversation.
Can I add to what you just said a little while ago about black people doing all? White folks doing it too, bro. White folks doing it. And when you look at the numbers as white folks to black folks, it's a lot more white folks.
I'm gonna be transparent. Right? I don't see that.
Oh, but that's your algorithm. That's your algorithm.
No. And
right?
I'm saying when it comes to these, so like, for example, you know what the Pop Your Balloon challenge is? So any of the younger folks, who's at the forefront of that challenge? Black people. I don't see no white people doing that. And if they're white, they're not even really white. For example, they're white in color, but for example, they have this hood mentality, so they're black. They're not white.
Cause they out there on the beach sleeping with everybody. They do their own thing in Panama City, those types of things.
And that's why.
Okay, all right.
And that's what.
There you go. We call them the hot tour person, right? So here's my point: is I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a family conversation, that we call each other into accountability, but we can't make it seem like white folks ain't doing worse than we are.
We're not necessarily saying that, but I think what needs to come is like we said, having this conversation where the older generation will sometimes need to humble themselves to realize when it comes to social media, we know a lot more than you all do. And that's just our generation is in it, where we live through it. So you can say that from the sidelines, but we're actually in the field. I live on social media. I have to. I make my living off social media. So we're able to see things from a perspective that you all may not be able to get. And that's why I think we need to humble ourselves and listen and take a note. Like, no. If I'm telling you, and these brothers are here as well, it's not just the algorithm is the same. It's the same thing being pushed to our black people.
Right. So I want to use this as an opportunity to bring it full circle. Going back to slide
next, we're going to hit the young men there.
Going back to slide number 2. Why is the black man vote? Why is the black man undervalued? Based on the conversation we're having right now, it's the people that are able to influence us to get, because you stated it. That's a myth, right? We're able to get there and make the vote, but we don't have the right people influencing us to go forward past just making that vote. That's where it stops. We're not using the resources that are being provided by the people that's being nominated. We're literally, hey, we're going to get there, make the vote because of the influences that we have. And that's for the younger generation. I know that. It takes Beyonce to go perform at Atlanta to get us to go out there and vote for the younger generation, right? But if we have the right people leading us post-vote, now we can create better infrastructures and move in the right direction. So that's the reason why I feel they claim it's undervalued, because we're not taking the vote and moving past the vote.
Right. Good point. Yes, Carlos?
I got something. A young man said, I think it was
Jakari.
I think he said, they said the Jewish is teaching, they teach it. In the Bible, it says, tell generations and generations what I have done for you and what I will do.
Keep going.
One of the biggest things that we suffer as a black community is that we don't go out to schools and talk to our color. Like, we as Florida Memorial University, we go out and read these books. We go out and do report cards, conference. We do these things to give back to the community. But it starts with us. It starts from today. It starts with how can we use today to move on and progress in society, in our country, and our color. Because we saying we want this, but we are not putting the first step to step in and be like, okay, let me step out of my comfort zone and let me reach out. We always want to be comfortable. And one thing I realized as our color, we want to be comfortable. If we are financially stable, we're gonna stay as financially stable. But we would not take that risk to help our brother out. I have a friend, he's Mexican. His dad works for a construction site. The truck seats 5 people. It's 8 people that gets in that truck. 8 people that stays in that 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. They commute together. They look out for another. We don't do that. We want to, oh man, we want to argue with each other, but these Mexicans are taking the jobs that are high value. A construction job is really good. It's a really good job. But we out here arguing on the site. I don't want him arguing on my site. Let me hire someone that I know that's going to put the work in for a little money. And that's one of the biggest things is we always fighting each other. As a community, what do we can do to balance it? That's all it's about. It's called balance. I have learned that dealing with young men like me, and that's trying to get where I'm at, they always say, I wish I was like you. I tell them that, don't wish you was like me, do better than me. Because you never know, I might need you one day in my lifetime. Yeah. And this generation that's coming up, we need them. Yes, the influencers, we are showing them that it's okay to be on TikTok. Like the young girl I date right now, we agreed our kids would not touch an iPhone or an iPad until they 13, 14. Because no, listen, it's not even a thing. It's the thing of technology is ruining the brain. I'm autistic. No one knows that because I carry myself in a very manageable way, but I'm autistic. My brain process things quicker than an average brain. I use 25% of my brain. Normal human beings use 10% to 15. I use 25. So I'm always moving. My head is always on the code. I tell the woman I date is, if you see things a different way and I see things a different way, she helps me view things in the Black community. Because sometimes I think, oh, that's racist, but in reality, that's what the child was raised of, to call you a nigger. That's the word they use. That's my nigger. Why else we using that word? It shouldn't be, oh, you want to be a doctor, but you're using that word. No one's gonna hire you if you're using that word. It's the slang, it's the way we use how we talk to each other too. And it's a big thing. And I think today is the first step. Today is a good step.
Yeah.
But what are we gonna do after this?
We're gonna get there. And you're a lot more advanced, obviously, I am. When I had a girlfriend, I wasn't talking about what we were going to do with the kids. You're pretty advanced. Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. Andre Archet, CEO of Innovate Consulting Group. And I just wanted to share a thought as well as challenge some of the young statements that I heard. I'm sorry. And here's the context behind that. Number one, when it comes to anything, whether it's the election or whatever, we all have different perspectives, right? So it doesn't matter what generation you're in. From my viewpoint, the differences that we're having is that if I cannot connect to your perspective or understand it, then I'll be dismissive. And so we'll have an issue, right? I can push back on you saying older people need to be humble about social media. We don't. I'm a Harvard graduate, grad school, the U for undergrad. We own social media. I'm a tech founder. You don't own TikTok. Old guys in their 40s like me own TikTok, okay? My AI company is predicted to match Facebook when we IPO. So people like you, and it's not a knock, I'm just saying in general, right? People like you come on platforms that nerdy people like me create, and we make billions of dollars. So we don't care if you make $1 million a year. You think Zuckerberg cares about an influencer? He owns Facebook and Instagram, another Harvard guy. And this is the trend among people that go to, I flew from Miami to Cambridge every month for the last 2 years because I knew there has to be a reason why most of the Fortune 500 went to Harvard that has to do with tech. So we don't have the perspective. You won't understand, not because of my age, but because I was in New York City during the Central Park Five. 1989, I was there, and I'm a kid, and I know what the police do in the hood, especially when they're exacerbated by somebody like Trump. So when I'm talking to my sons that are your age, and it's not from a place of fear or not understanding the world, it is I have the context to say, if you get immunity to abuse my people, because you can say, well, they're dying now. Well, they'll die more in a free pass. I have the context to say I've been overseas where I'm in fear for my life every day as a U.S. Marine. So that can't be the excuse to kill unarmed men because we don't get to do it overseas or we'll go to Leavenworth. I also have the perspective to say, to challenge you to say, not all Black men care about the gay agenda. Most Black men I know want to make some money and take care of their families. I don't care who you sleep with. Now, I'm personally not gay. Shout out to the LGBTQ community. But if you're not trying to have me pay your mortgage, I don't care. I got kids to take care of. I got a kid in college that don't get financial aid. I need to figure out how to get some money. If you're worried about who somebody deals with. But anyway, the final challenge that I have for you is that I have kids that I talk to, I mentor all the time. Y'all know every stat of every player, how many yards they got, what their star rating is. Shout out to the U, right? That we're undefeated. Anyhow, you know if there was a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, if they went to Heritage, St. Thomas, the same way that you all know all of that, I challenge all of you all to do your research that way. Because to the brother's point, a president is not going to solve it. I need you all to recognize that there's a House and a Senate and a president, right? I need y'all to get the high school civics to understand what are we doing? Well, we're building a championship team, right? So in the same way, your favorite team, you'll have 1 or 2 people. You think the president is going to win you the chip? That's not enough. We have to get the president, right? That's a star player. But we need the House, that's a star player, and we need the Senate. Now we can win championships. Otherwise, you're going to end up looking like the Cowboys, and every 40 years, we're complaining about
Nah, you knew that straight was coming. I don't know why you
All right.
Nah, I think, nah, he didn't say the Dolphins. I respect it. Yeah, because you knew if you said the Dolphins, all that would have went out the window. I'm not going to lie, everything you said. But I don't know if anybody else wants to piggyback off of what he was saying, but I definitely agree with a lot of points that he was saying, right? I think in the beginning, 100%, when it comes to the tech, a lot of it is being created by the older generation of individuals, right? But I would say another thing why the point still stands is a lot of individuals aren't you, right? Like a lot of individuals, especially the older generations, aren't tech people. Like 30, 40 plus, my mom still be asking me to show her how to do Instagram. I'm not playing. Also, my dad don't even use a phone, and he's 45. So that's why I say a lot of older people, you might have went to school for that, 100%. Kudos to you. You're ahead of the curve because a lot of older people don't understand technology, and they don't know how to integrate it.
Let's get back to the questions and good points, young man, and then we'll go to another question.
I was just going to say before we go to our next subject that when it just has Carlos gave his statement. My brief statement is that when we become comfortable, comfortable becomes us. That when we become comfortable with not voting, when we become comfortable of not knowing of who to vote for, then that just becomes us. The challenge is what we are doing here today, and that is having those uncomfortable conversations, giving those examples of giving the receipts, keeping those receipts of why we should vote, not just why we should vote, and who we could potentially vote for. Now, whatever you decide to do, whoever you decide to vote for, whoever you think is right, that's your right. But the most important thing is don't be comfortable and don't be complacent with not knowing. Because yes, some things are better left unknown, but some things we must know in order, because it plays a role not just in our Black American, African American history, but it plays a role in the history on what we are getting ready to make, not just history that has been in the past. And my one other statement, I'm going to take my seat, is this: that if we don't do our research on Project 2025, then Project 2025 will be looking like 1965.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Very well stated. Yes, sir.
Real quick. My name is Eugene Charlemagne. I just wanted to respond to one of your statements, Shakari. You said we need leaders. Now we have more Black leaders than ever before. You know, it's just our youth choose the influences as their leaders. You know, we have coaches, social workers, teachers, people on the Black men on the ground being leaders. Mr. Pettis was one out of 2 men who donated to, out of the 150 Black kids I sent to 4-year colleges across the state, the only 2 Black men that supported my caseload. And Kevin Love was on my caseload, and he got an engineering degree, right? So it's about who we choose as our leader, right? But again, for our leaders and our mentors and our mentees, these kids are not dumb. They see faith, you know? They tired of y'all talking to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did a project with 3 of my kids in my caseload. I got tired of sitting down, doing life skills, telling them what they're supposed to do. I said, you know what? Here's my team. Here's my attorney. Here's my credit person. Here's my accountant. Here's my team. And I'll pay the bill. 2 got houses right now, and all 3 got jobs, and all 3 got degrees. Real mentors and mentees teach their mentees how they make money. Don't talk to me. Show me how you did it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Don't come to my school and say you've been a part of this label, that label. Connect me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, invite me to the studio. You know, introduce me to a producer. Right. Like, they tired of people talking to them. They're not dumb, and they're tired of it. I sent over 150 kids to 4-year colleges from different crazy backgrounds, trauma, abuse. Mm-hmm. They don't care how much I know until they know how much I care. Mm-hmm. And that's when they start listening to me.
Mm-hmm. Nah, 100%.
Yeah. Great point.
Let's hear Eugene right quick. Right quick to add to his point, what he said is meeting the kids where they are. And I think a lot of people want, especially older, they want you to come to them. No, you got to come to me, especially as a young child. And I would say as well, when it comes to the your first point, when it came to meeting these kids exactly where they at, I lost my train of thought. It was there. I promise you it was there.
Yeah. Let's hear the next question.
Going back to the original question that you posted earlier, Mr. Pettis, and I agree part of with what you said, Mr. Johnson, what you said, Rev, is that I think part of the issue we have is not that we're undervalued as Black men. I think part of it is that the system seeks to make us feel that we're undervalued. And part of that is because when we look at how, like you mentioned, how they've tried to dilute the Civil Rights Act, how this current administration, talking about the state administration, has sought to rewrite our history, how as a criminal justice system, we've seek to the school to prison pipeline to devalue Black men, the community, because of what we can add to our community. And I think part of it goes to what Rev said earlier about accountability. If we as Black people were to get together to understand how much of a voting bloc we are, then, and once we get out there, we hold our political leaders accountable for people who are not living up to these tangibles that they're promising us or the campaign trail. Because a lot of them are going to come out and promise one thing or another, but after November 5th, when's the next time we're going to see them? When's the next time we're going to actually see the things that they promised us? Because a lot of these politicians are career politicians. They will be in office for years and years, and we're not voting anyone else in because they're not delivering. Mm-hmm. Now, if we were to actually hold them accountable, some of these people that are in office will not be there. They might be one-hitter quitters and they're gone. But until we actually get up and organize and sit and hold them accountable, they're going to continue doing the same thing. We're only going to see them election season. We're only going to see them when it benefits them to be in front of our faces, opposed to actually holding them accountable and them recognizing that we're not just political pawns, we're people who will come out and vote and advocate for ourselves. So I think that to answer the question, it's not that we are undervalued. I think that we need to stand up and show them that we are valued, and therefore that will change the system. So that way the laws that they're trying to use to eradicate our rights and our abilities to speak for ourselves, they will know that they don't have the power because we hold that power within ourselves.
Very well stated.
That's why. So thank you. I talk about negotiating your vote, right? And there's this funny thing that the other day, my wife wanted a foot rub. So I said, I'm going to negotiate this foot rub with you, right? I said, I will give you your foot rub, your foot massage, if you, Miss PG, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all men, right? So you know what happened at minute 14? I started taking my clothes off, right? Because there was a negotiation. I gave her something and I expected something. We're not negotiating for our votes, bro. We're not. So there's nothing to hold anybody accountable to. It sounds good. It sounds good. We're holding them accountable. Holding them accountable to what? To what their consultants tell them to come and say to you? Is what they're saying really factual in your life? If it's not, then it's not. You know what I'm saying? So how do we create a document, or even thinking, right? You ain't coming to my church to tell me nothing that I'm telling you something. Sit and listen. Because I'm talking to my congregants. I'm talking to you about what I hear at the altar. This is what I hear. We're concerned about housing. Exactly. We're concerned about healthcare. We're concerned about our brothers getting their rights back to vote because their criminal records are stopping them from passing a level 2. We got to talk about that kind of stuff. It ain't just about being invited to sit on an amazing panel. Y'all some powerful brothers, as a matter of fact. I like that, right? And then we all get to network and change lives and those things. But are we really listening to the people who are most impacted? That's where the power is, among impacted people.
I promise I can do this in 60 seconds. And the clock's going. All right, first and foremost, to the brother just spoke, one, that was free game. Everything you heard right there, that was free game. I'm a married man. That was free game. So to my brother who said, are we undervalued? All right, you are a black man in America. I need to make this simple for you, and it's historic. You will always be other. In order for white supremacy to exist, there has to be non-white. And in case you haven't noticed, immigrants and Asians and everybody else have become white. You are the last man standing. You always will be. We always will be. It's who we are in this country. You got to understand what you're fighting before you can even get to war. Secondly, politicians are not leaders. I'm going to say this again. Politicians are not leaders. Politicians are not leaders. There is not another community in America, particularly not one like ours, where the politicians set the agenda. I lied. Politicians are tools. They exist to affect the will of the people. It's the obligation of, thank you, it's the obligation of all of us up here, all of y'all in there, to put them to work. So when politicians fail us, or when politicians don't deliver what they sold us, it was kind of our fault. And I'm not a victim blamer. I'm just reminding everybody that the duty of us is to put our Black and Decker tools to work if we want to build a house, or in this case, to put our politicians to work.
And one of the things on that point, and then I'll get you, brother, is we need to look. I asked you, young man, to take the picture of the QR code to do some research. One person on the Zoom said, so what party have policies that are better suited for our people? That's a question. I mean, I've listened. I'm an addict for listening to the last 4 months, certainly, of this campaign, presidential campaign. It's amazing how you hear with Vice President Harris, what are her policies? What are her policies? The lady's speaking every day about what she wants to do. You listen to Trump, there is no discussion of policies, and there's nobody asking him to make policies. Yeah, it's a concept with him. He gets away with it. She can't, and she's answering every possible question every day of the week, multiple times about where policies are. But look at those policies, and you can't look at them that, well, she has to address every issue I want to address. There's not going to be any politician to address every issue. You got to get engaged and help shape those agendas, just as he just stated, Steve just stated. You have to get involved and shape the agenda. And I appreciate Rev, because I've been saying a long time, I'm so tired of people, officials coming to our churches, standing up, we acknowledge them, and you never see them again. That is such a cultural defect that we have. We're so happy to see them in the church, and they don't give a darn about us. And we got to get better than that. And one last thing, somebody came to me about a year and a half ago and said he had been asked to pull together Black elected officials. I said, well, they just got elected. What are we celebrating? Let them go do something. Some of them were brand new. I said, let them do something. He said, well, they want to have a reception at the Tower Club in Fort Lauderdale. I said, one way I'll do it. We're going to talk a strategic plan. There are 3 things that every one of these districts have. We need healthcare, better healthcare. We need housing, and we need a better education for our children. Those are 3 things we should be able to agree on. I'd be darned if getting them in the room, it just went sideways. It went sideways, man. After all the time, we couldn't even talk about those common issues. It was personality conflicts. It was, you said this about me. I was shocked. It was like I was managing a middle school discussion. And that's what our state of our politics is sometimes. We got to be careful who we're putting into political office. Are we putting people that are going to lift the community, or people that just want to get in there to have the title? And too often it's the latter. Yes, sir.
Good evening, and I'm going to say this. My name is Dr. William Latson. I'm a 31-year educator, and I say that not to give myself some extra full. I say that because my belief is that we have to go back to what got every last one of us here, and that's an education. Every topic that we talked about tonight stems from an education. It stems from knowledge. It stems from understanding. If we don't have it, we can't be in the room to have the conversations. We don't know enough to deal with the conversations. We have gentlemen up here who have backgrounds in education. We're sitting at Nova Southeastern University where we're having this conversation, an educational institution. That says that must be very important. My family are all educators. Everybody in my house believed that education was the stem for a young Black male like myself. If I wasn't educated, I couldn't do what I'm doing. If I wasn't educated, I can't get to the next level. So, yes, we've talked about a lot of topics, but we have to go back to the basics, to getting our communities educated. We do not believe that education is important in our communities. And I say that because I've been educating people in our communities for over 31 years. Where I started back in 1989 to now, it's a drop-off. We don't push our children to become educated. And education is not only a college degree. My grandmother was well educated, but she didn't go past a 7th grade level. My grandfather was the superintendent of Negro schools in Palatka, Florida. He had an 8th grade education, but that was one of the smartest men I've ever dealt with in my life. So we have to look at what is an education. How do we educate our children? I think Attorney Johnson said everybody doesn't have to have a college degree. I absolutely, truly believe that. I spent 28 years in Palm Beach County School District fighting with them to say we need vocational programs. I think one of these young men up here said that construction workers, that's a great job. We have to broaden our horizons, but we have to know enough to do so. If we're not educated, Donald Trump will tell us whatever he wants to tell us, and we're going to fall for it because we don't know enough to argue. We're going to listen to everything that people tell us, but we don't know enough to put up a good argument. We have to go back to the basics. We have to go to our communities. We have to make sure people understand that an education is where we must start from. That is our building block. I don't know where it ended, but when I was younger, that was the point. Yeah, I could run a football. Somebody said it at St. Thomas Aquinas. I did that. I ran track at St. Thomas Aquinas. I did that. I went to University of Florida, got a scholarship. But what is that doing for me right now? The only thing it did for me is pay for my college. It didn't do anything after that. And we have to remember, building people up here because what they do with pigskin and not with their brain, that's what's tearing up our community. We're trying to build these kids up for an area that's not sustainable. We have to help them understand that what you use here is what's going to build our community. And that's something that we do not do. And that it's hard to do because we sell kids on this bill of nothingness. And at the end of the day, what do these top athletes, if they're lucky, what do they become? An attorney. They become a social media person. They become a reverend. They become something else besides what they ran through, because that's the only thing that's sustainable in our community. So hopefully through this conversation, we'll start getting back to the fact that we need to educate our young brothers. And I'm proud of these brothers here from Florida Memorial, that they have the wherewithal. The arguments that they brought up today, I'm stunned. You guys keep going. Talk to me. You're an educator, elementary education. Talk to me. There's a lot that you can do.
Let me
and I will support you on that.
Let me thank you very much. Thank you. Great comments. We're getting to the 9 o'clock hour. We have touched upon what I was going to discuss, and we've had an open discussion on it, and that is the importance of strengthening the Black Brotherhood and how do we do it. We've heard a lot of suggestions. I've got a lot of suggestions. One of the things I think, and Rev, I'll get you, one of the things that I think is important is that we take this data. This has all been recorded. It's going to be put on YouTube and other platforms of your desire. Beyond that, YouTube keeps it there in perpetuity forever, as some other platforms are not as permanent. But some of the questions that have come from, how do we foster an environment that promotes unity and accountability when confronted with symbols or actions that divide us? Those are all questions that we're going to have to spend some time in, like a workshop, and we'll have different formats to talk about. One of the things I want, and I'm so proud of Florida Memorial University. When Carlos came up, he said the president, McCormick, wanted us to look at it on Zoom, and I told him we wanted to come live. We wanted to be in the room. I would strongly suggest, we got 1 week, that you all go back as ambassadors to your campus and talk to other people about the insights that you've gained here today. Do some quick research. You don't have the time. You don't have the time to sit on the sideline. I just strongly feel that way. Sitting on the sideline is not good for you individually, and it's good for our people and our. It's really important. The other question was, what can we do as Black men to mobilize and seriously push for passing the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which is beneficial to preserving our humanity? Well, one of the things that's been brought up a couple of times, and what we have to do is not just be politically engaged for a vote. We have to be politically engaged to carry out an agenda. And I agree with Rev. We as a people have never put together an agenda. It's so difficult, even if we work through the churches, to get them together to come up with a agenda that when people go out, we can say, here is what we're standing on. Because we allow ourselves to divide, because you're not going to tell me what to do. You know, I don't want that item. Even if it's good, people get into a attitude of not being agreeable. We as Black men need to step up. We have to bring something to the table. One of the things we should bring to the table is this type of strategic thinking, and not being reactionary after the fact. Because after the fact, typically it's too late. It's already been cemented. Rev, you wanted to say something.
I was going to go back to that. How do we continue? There's fellowship, there's community service, and there has to be political action. Those are the three pillars, right? We have to identify through an agenda what are the things that we're going to push as a collective. So I left Hillsborough, fell asleep driving here at the stoplight, as a matter of fact. Fell asleep. But it was important for me to get here because as many Black men as we know that could have a conversation with the outcome of how do we create a document that resonates with us? Now, I'm concerned that there are some other areas of our community that we ain't reaching. And I got a heart for Ray them. We got to find a way to bring them into the space to have a conversation with them. Because all of a sudden, it's going to be them bougie Negroes came up with that. That ain't got nothing to do with us. You see what I'm saying? So how do we be intentional about creating spaces that includes everyone, even though we may not, we may get a little weed on us. That's all right, right? We may hear some profanity. Yo, that's okay. You got people with lived experiences that come to a space with a level of pain that you will never understand. But we got to love them enough to try to understand it and bring them into a fold of how do we do it? How do we educate, brother? We got to go back to using our church spaces to educate. We're pushing using our church spaces and our pastors to teach Black history. When DeSantis started with his mess, we organized and got 500 Black churches to teach Black history in their churches, their way. Right? So how do we start using our church spaces? Everybody can go to church or some place of worship. And if your pastor ain't on teaching Black history to Black men, y'all need to just to jug them just a little bit. So I appreciate the platform. I appreciate everybody that gave me the opportunity just to share. And God bless you all.
And one of the things that this is my first time meeting Reverend Whiteley in person. But when you speak to him, he'll leave here today and he's back on the streets engaging in listening sessions tomorrow. It's not a part-time job. It's not a once in a occasion thing that he and Rohan does. They're in the trenches. And this is a really nice, my brother Earl Hall over there, I thank him for gathering all the food. Right, she's been in the meeting. She's been in the meeting. But Earl got all this food here for us. We need to take some of it home.
Yeah, I'm getting
the college student said, "Don't worry, we'll take it home."
We're taking it here. We're on a college budget. But you know what I'm saying? I'm still on it.
But the other point is that we got to take this to where they are. Because we're never going to get them to come to Nova Southeastern. They're never going to come to wherever. We really have to take it into the community and to do it strategically.
Right quick.
Thank you, brother Hall.
I was going to say, I'm sorry. Right quick. I just want to say, just to piggyback off the Reverend's point before I lose the train of thought. I was going to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Apostle Paul that went into. Basically, the disciples, they went over into the trenches where people was at. And a lot of times you go into these areas, you keep, and you don't conform to what they do, but you bring them out. So 100%, we got to be in the trenches with them full force, right? And that's the biggest key when it comes to anybody resonation. You got to go where they at to be able to resonate with them. For example, when it comes to these diamonds in my mouth per se, they come in and out. You know what I mean? I'm able to be in different type of meetings, right? And the reason being as well is because I know that this resonates with the younger generation. A lot of times they're not gonna resonate with you if they don't think you cool.
So you're
right?
suggesting I go get some?
I'm not suggesting that for you, but yeah, get that grill, put it every once in a while, and then come into the, and like you said, and you can't, 100% at court. You're gonna be a meme in the morning. But that's why I say, like, you got to be able to resonate with them, and a lot of times they're gonna listen to you and agree with you and try to follow suit if they think you cool, right? Or if they think you look a certain type of way, or if they understand you, right? Which is why you're able to. And I think another thing to be able to add on to how we can be able to create that community, Reverend, is to be able to have the churches connect with the influencers. So someone like that's on your level and what you're doing, the church has to be directly communicated with the person that's doing positive work.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. I'm an artist, but we're both preaching in two different stances,
Yeah.
right? And so we all have to be able to do our part collectively as a group. Oh no, listen to this music, and then we go here for worship, and then we go here for the festivals, and then we go here to go ahead and get our degrees, etc. It's different pipelines that we create.
Well stated.
To be able to have all of us here are in different fields, but we all have the same mission. And we all are leading the same generation, right? And we're all in the trenches in our own different type of way. So now it's being able to have, now you got preachers in 5 different areas, right? And so I think that's really going to be the deciding factor when it comes to uplifting, going into those areas, and then being able to connect the preacher with the artist, with everyone else down the line.
And one of the, well stated, Jakari, one of the things that's so important is, you know, we're talking to these young brothers who are in, you know, in university level. We need to get to the younger brothers. We need to get them when they're really young and start teaching them the right way, start educating them. It's not that it's too late, but we're touching them on a different level. They're getting ready to, they're already in manhood. They're getting ready to go into the professional world in a matter of years. We need to start giving these young boys from elementary school, middle school, a different view of what they see in their communities.
It's easier to build up a young child than repair a broken adult.
That's well stated.
And that's the truth. But
yeah, 100%.
What you just
I'm
said,
a rapper. That's what I do.
He got bars. He got bars. Listen, there's more to that academically. If you look at the Black community, you have a support system for a young Black child up until 13 because he can play sports. He can play Optimist Club. He can be involved in something. At 13, sports becomes competitive. That means you have to have a talent to continue that path. If your talent happens to be thinking, being philosophical, having bars, there's nothing there from 13 to about 18. There's nothing in our community to just encourage your intellectual growth. Whatever that is. That is, if you want to know where our hole is, and that's why when you said it, I said, I got to say something. That is where we have an organizational hole as a community. The churches don't have anything for us. There's nothing anywhere for us from 13 to 18. And then the hole's again at 18 because they're in college. If you ain't in college, from 18 to 21, nobody knows what to do with you.
Yeah.
Because you can't go drink with me. So I can't give you life over at the bar. Those are the 2 big holes. And that's where we're losing a lot of folks that we can't get back.
Right, right. Well, that's a good point. We're going to hear one more from the audience, and then we're going to wrap up with Rohan and Kevin. If you have some closing comments in there, we're going to be wrapping up. And this is not the end of the conversation. This is just a pause. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. And just to also piggyback off of Reverend Watley and from Jakari's statement as well too, when it comes to all of the history that we have endured and some of the history that we are making today, a lot of our organizations, a lot of our leadership organizations were all developed from the church. You can go from SCLC, you can go from all the way back from when you look at Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King, every last one you can think about, all of those, they were all developed from the church. And some of us, we have such a misconstrued way of thinking about the church as just, oh, the church, they always need this, they always need that. Yes, we need it because we are literally trying to help out the community. It is our job, not just church is not just confined to just a building that's made from brick and mortar. Church is not confined by just the congregants that are there that attend regularly. Church is confined by the community that is made up of about it. That church should not just be a place where you meet God on Sunday. You can meet God when you're talking with the preacher on the street. You can meet God in a grocery store. You can meet God. You can meet God any way or any form or any fashion. Either way, it's all about being able to go beyond the building. And it's even in the Bible, I believe it's in Luke chapter 5 and Luke chapter 5 verses 1 through 11, where it deals with that. And Jesus says to launch out into the deep. And literally that's all we have to do in order for younger men that are younger than myself, and even young men that are even my age that are either in college or not in college. It is our job to be able to go launch out into the deep. It may be crazy, we may seem obscure, but it's the same way on how Jesus operated. And Jesus operated in a scene of being very crazy and obscure, but yet and still he still made impact by launching out into the deep. And it takes conversations like this that'll kind of light a fire under us that causes us to launch out into those deep places where we have never been, places where we have grew up in but could not stay in. It requires us to go out and launch out into the deep. That's all I'm saying.
Well stated. Well stated. You're going to be a young preacher, man. Let's hear from Kevin Love.
First and foremost, Eugene, I just want to thank you for having us up here to have this moment to kind of connect on a level that we don't typically do. I'll say this for me personally. I haven't been this comfortable in a very long time, being around a lot of people who are aligned and aiming to do the same thing. In my field, in my profession, I'm one of 2 Black project managers in South Florida. I work for the largest general contractor in the state, and we're one of the largest in the country. And I'm one of the 2 Black project managers in South Florida. So with that being said, it feels good knowing that we got these young men up here, eager, willing to do what it takes to get to the next level, come out, connect. It feels good knowing that we have the generations before us willing to pour into us so that we can continue to push forward. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I look forward to connecting with everyone. And as Eugene said, I'm looking forward to communicate after the pause. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. Brother Rohan.
Yeah, Eugene, I want to thank you again for having us. I just want to bring a quick story for us, right? What we cannot do, we cannot give up on ourselves, right? We can't neglect what we have started. I'll give you a quick story. So Ray and I, we worked closely together, and we were one of the organizers of when Corey Jones got killed, right? And our process, we took it upon ourselves to make the officer become accountable. We got threats, right? We got people attacking us, even family members involved in the situation were coming up. But we didn't give up. We're still here on the ground fighting and doing the same things that we did back then. So we cannot give up on our Black men, and we got to keep engaging and keep reaching out until our mission is completed.
Well stated. I want to recognize, as we close, Eric Chisholm, who's behind me. Eric is a great brother who I've known since his youth, high school. And I called him up and Noel Hyatt. And when I said, hey, we're doing this program, Noel jumped on it. And Eric had something on all the social media platforms probably within 30 minutes. And he's very good at social media. So you have to look him up. He's Learned Man on social media. And he's 50. He was 16, 17 when I met him. It's important for us to get out and vote. It's important for us to get out and vote. We're in early voting. We're in early voting until the 3rd. So we got 4 or 5 more days. This is serious. It's serious. And I don't want to come into this room when we've sat on our tails and let somebody else get in that office with a plan that we know is not for us. We know that. And we're better than that. We're smarter than that. We cannot. And I get really exercised when people are not exercising their vote, because so many of our foreparents fought. Some of them died, but they didn't stop. They kept pushing forward. And we have all the luxuries in the world, all the luxuries in the world. And we take it for granted. Guys, the luxuries we have today could be gone tomorrow. They could be gone tomorrow. And we cannot take this one lightly. So for the, the college students we have here, thank you for taking your time. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell President McCormick that he should be proud, because you all are representative. I know you all are some of the leaders, but you're representative of the quality of students we have at Florida Memorial University, and I'm most impressed. The last thing I want to say is thank you to those that have been online. Eric has been giving me questions. There are a lot of engagements online. Some of them go to what we're going to talk about the next time. And I've kept all the stickers right here, and they're going to be a part of the record, if you will. And we're going to continue this conversation. I think, did I talk to you, Rohan, about, it was Lyle who said that he said, when he had a conflict tonight, he said we should do, another one in a quarter, at least once a quarter, in some form or fashion. We should be talking to each other, man. And I'm committed to it. And it doesn't have to be, this was central. That's why I selected. But Steve gave a great example. I mean, he made me realize that I was not even thinking about Florida Memorial University when we were looking for a place. And I was advocating. He was. The only reason we didn't do it there is because we picked Saturday, and Saturday was their homecoming. So the homecoming game was Saturday night, and I said, well, what time is the game over? He said they're after events after the homecoming. So we moved it at that time, and I had to get something, get locked down. Sure. Yeah, use the mic.
I'm loud and everybody can hear me. No, listen. You do have a Tri-County audience, and the Tri-Counties do not do everything together. We don't do anything together. We're actually terrible. Nothing. Do one each county.
Do one what?
I'm going to volunteer Miami-Dade to host the next one. Okay. West Palm, where you at? Bring us up there. And that's how that works.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I agree with you, Steve. Yeah, one of the things that I look at in my study of our history is the fact that our parents and grandparents and great grandparents made it with so little, and they didn't have any positions in society, no titles. They weren't allowed to have any real titles. We got all the titles in the world and access in the world. And we're not doing as much as they did. We've gotten comfortable, in my opinion. We all got, a house. We all got a car, and, we go behind the gated communities, wherever it is, and you forget about the real world. We got to get desperate again. We got to feel that edge, in my opinion. And when you feel the edge, I work best when I feel some fear. We should be in fear right now. If you don't feel the fear right now, man, we got to feel some fear, because when Kamala Harris wins on the 5th, we're still going to have those threats. She's going to need our presence. She's not going to need our support. And we need to be even more activated at that point in time. Either way around, we must take our rightful place as leaders. And I'm really strong on, and somebody mentioned, it may have been you, Steve, we're stronger when we stand as one. It's the hardest darn thing to do, man. But when we stand as one, and Noel will tell you, and I'm a Kappa man through and through, but Black Greek organizations are trying to do all the same stuff. We need to be in the room together. We need to be in the room together. We all got a little group of youth. We got to, we're going to have a scholarship. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, it doesn't add up to any market value until we come together and put it together. And then we got some market appeal. We got to get out of our silos. And well, I'm different than that. All we do is wear different t-shirts, different paraphernalia. That's about it. I have friends in all of them. But it'll be so much stronger if we learn how to aggregate our power. And then you got a market force. And we got room to, we got time to get there. And that'll be a part of the conversation. But I'm wrapping up because of the hour. The conversation, as I said, is on pause. I cannot thank you all enough to come and have input on this. I've been lifted and I've been impressed by the future that's in the hand of these young men. Thank you all. And thank you to all that's online for staying with us. Have a good evening.